how to set language learning goals. So this video, I'm basically just going to go through, I won't waste your time, we're going to talk about how to set language learning goals for beginners and if it is important at all. So this video will teach you how to set language learning goals that are achievable. I do find too many people do start out with very unrealistic goals from like social media and all that kind of thing that kind of sets them off on a really bad path, and this video will fix that if you watch it in its entirety and implement everything. So this is a channel that does focus on helping beginner language learners, and yeah, if you're not really interested in that, this video probably isn't for you. I'm not going to waste your time. Links to my website's in the description, and consider subscribing if you like this content, but let's go. What you do. So first, do you actually need goals for language learning? And the answer is some form of goal setting is very important. So if you do start learning a language, presumably your goal is to learn some of it, but you do kind of need to set a goal of what you are trying to do. So do you want to be completely fluent in it? Are you just trying to know some, sayings and stuff before you go on a holiday, that kind of thing? And this is really important because without an end zone in mind, you don't really have you have no accountability measure, like you have no reason to continue learning because you don't really have a point where you need to stop, or you need to you don't have a point where you know that you've done enough. So goals are very important, but then the question becomes, how do we actually set effective goals? So here is how to do it for language learning, and pay attention because this is very, very important. There's a concept of hard goals versus soft goals, and this is extremely important with language learning because a lot of people do not do this right. So let me just say, first of all, when you're learning a language, you're learning a second language. So you already know English or whatever language. You don't know how to actually learn languages. And that might sound weird because you've already learned English or whatever your first language is. But you're not like a linguist because you've learnt your first language. You learnt that because you were a baby and you had your parents talking and all that kind of things, and you slowly adopted the words over time, but you don't actually know, presumably you don't know what verb conjugation or these other complex linguistic terms are until you actually learn them when you're teaching yourself a second language. So you don't actually know how to learn a language, which means it's impossible to set reasonable goals because you don't know how long it's going to take to learn. So there's a lot of rubbish on the internet where there's a lot of clickbait videos of, I learned this language in 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 10 minutes, I don't know, stuff like that. And that's all obviously rubbish. Generally, there are some people who are extremely experienced and naturally talented that can learn a language in a couple months, but I'm not even going to mention that because that's not relevant to you. So if you're a beginner language learner, what you need to do is set soft goals over hard goals, and I'm going to explain why. So a hard goal is where you give yourself a specific time to learn a specific thing. So an example with language learning would be, you say 1 year from now, I'm going to be fluent in Spanish, or 1-2 years, whatever, it doesn't matter. That would be a hard goal because you're saying, after this amount of time, I'm going to be able to do this thing. That is results based because you're saying, I need to have this result after this amount of time. With soft goals, you are setting an input goal, not a result goal. So how hard you're going to try. An example of that would be, I'm going to study 3 times a week, 1-hour sessions while I'm learning this language for the period of however many years it takes. That is an effort-based result. And the reason soft goals are better than hard goals is because, as you can see with this soft goal here, you have complete control over that. You can do 3 1-hour sessions a week every week. You're in control of that. What you can't control is how good you are after an amount of time because you don't know how hard it's going to be to do, but you can control this. You can sit down 3 times a week for an hour. Obviously, someone might say, what if you have something on that week? True. But you basically have complete control over this soft goal, whereas you don't over this hard goal. And that's what it's about. Control. It is to do with control. So you want to set goals where you actually have control over what you're doing. If you set the goal of studying, say, 3 times a week for 1-hour sessions, and ideally you want to learn the language by the end of the year, and you've meet that soft goal, you study 3 times a week for 1-hour sessions basically every week, and you're not at the place you wanted to be at the end of the year, that's fine because you've achieved your soft goal. You've done what you actually tried to do. Whereas if you just set that hard goal, I want to learn by the end of the year, by the end of the year, if you haven't done it, which is very likely because 1 year to learn a second language is not a lot of time, even if it is easy, you're going to be very disappointed because you thought you'd be able to do it and you didn't. So you can control how much and how well you study. You can't control anything else. That is why you need to set soft goals over hard goals. So I will remind you, you don't know how to learn a language yet, and that is also extremely important. Until you actually know how long it takes to learn a language and you have a rough idea, and maybe you'd have to have learnt a few, then you can potentially set hard goals. So for experienced language learners, they can in fact set a hard goal and not be disappointed because they know they can meet it because they've done it a couple of times. Whereas if you've never played a particular sport, you wouldn't be able to guess how well you'll perform at it. Like if you're going to play volleyball for the first time, that's not a good idea. That's a team sport. It needs to be a solo sport. Say you're going to do boxing for the first time and you had no idea of the rules or anything before you'd done it, and you're against another person who also didn't know anything. Neither of you would be able to know how well you'd go because you've never watched it, you don't know the rules, you've never done it, you know nothing about it. You just wouldn't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of the same with language learning, except a lot of people kind of go into it assuming that they are in fact going to learn a lot better than they are. So yeah, set yourself a goal, a soft goal of, for example, you could set 1 hour a day, 5 hours a week. You could set in the morning, or you could say, I'm going to read a chapter before bed of the language I'm learning. Anything like that, anything that you have complete control over that's kind of like short-term recurring, that is a soft goal. If you do have any questions about that, feel free to comment down below and I will help you. But yeah, those are the goals you need. Those goals are completely achievable, as I said before, because you are in control. So the bottom line, you must kick goals to approve, and the goals need to be kickable, which is why you need soft goals over hard goals. That is the video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. I will mention for the people who hung around to the end, if you are interested in language learning, I do have a link in the description to Head of State Language Learning, my website. There is free language learning resources online for anyone to access, free guides for a bunch of different languages. I think I've currently done French, Spanish, and Italian, but I have a bunch I'm working on at the moment. So if you're watching this after I've made this video, presumably I have built more, so you're welcome to check them out as well. I highly recommend it. I also do offer one-on-one coaching as well. It's currently on sale. You can check that out on my website as well, where I work with you guys one-on-one, and we literally crush every single problem you have. I hold you accountable, add you to the Discord, that kind of thing. So yeah, like and subscribe, guys. We do have a link in the description to the Discord as well. It is free to join. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. I hope you do have a good one and you learned something.